What happens when a routine celebrity interview suddenly transforms into one of the most chilling confessions ever broadcast? When Keanu Reeves arrived at the studio that evening, no one could have predicted how his appearance would unfold, or the disturbing revelations he would share about Pope Robert Prevost. As cameras rolled and millions watched, Keanu finally broke his silence about mysterious messages, shadowy warnings, and a Vatican secret that had haunted him for years. Before we begin this extraordinary story, tell us in the comments, what quality do you admire most about Keanu Reeves? The studio hummed with anticipation as final preparations were made for that evening's broadcast. Technicians adjusted lighting levels, producers conferred in hushed tones, and the studio audience settled into their seats, phones tucked away, excitement building. This was supposed to be another forgettable celebrity promotional appearance, pleasant, polished, and entirely predictable. The famous late-night host strode onto the set with practiced confidence, adjusting his tie and flashing his trademark grin. The cameras loved him, and he knew exactly how to play to them. Tonight's guest was Keanu Reeves, beloved actor known for his philosophical outlook and private nature. The segment would likely feature light banter, perhaps a clip from his latest project, maybe one of those viral moments the internet so eagerly consumed. But something felt different from the moment Keanu entered. He moved with his characteristic quiet grace, but there was a hesitancy in his steps, a shadow behind his eyes that the cameras caught immediately. His customary half-smile seemed forced, his handshake with the host perfunctory. As he settled into the guest chair, his gaze drifted to the small table between them. There, arranged for decorative purposes, sat a glass of water, a notepad, and oddly, a small wooden crucifix. The religious symbol appeared damaged, its base cracked, the figure leaning precariously to one side. Most would have overlooked this detail, but Keanu's eyes lingered on it, something unreadable passing across his features. The host launched into his opening patter, brimming with artificial enthusiasm. Man, so much happening in the world. Did you catch that the new pope is already making headlines? Robert Prevost. Seems like a quiet, contemplative type. Kind of Jedi-like, don't you think? Calm, serene. The audience chuckled obligingly, but Keanu didn't join them. Instead, he looked directly at the host, his expression suddenly intense. There's something about him I've never been able to explain. The abrupt shift in tone caught the host off guard. He blinked, momentarily uncertain how to redirect the conversation back to safer territory. You mean spiritually? Or does he remind you of someone? Keanu shook his head slowly. No, it's what he doesn't remind me of. The studio fell silent. The audience, expecting celebrity anecdotes and practiced banter, found themselves witnessing something entirely different. The host squirmed slightly in his chair, attempting to salvage the planned trajectory of the interview. Well, maybe he's just trying to bring something fresh to the role. Every pope has their own unique approach, right? Keanu closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, there was a glimmer of something that looked almost like contained emotion. Without responding to the host's comment, he reached out and gently touched the damaged crucifix on the table, his fingers tracing the crack in the wood with peculiar familiarity. The gesture held an unmistakable reverence, as if he were connecting with something beyond the physical object. I've stayed quiet for long enough, he said softly. The statement landed with unexpected weight. The audience remained absolutely still, sensing they were witnessing something unscripted, something that transcended the usual entertainment format. Even the camera operators exchanged glances, unsure whether to follow their standard shooting pattern or focus exclusively on this unexpected moment. After several seconds of tense silence, the host leaned forward. You've stayed quiet about what, Keanu? Keanu's hand moved toward his jacket pocket. He withdrew a yellowed, creased envelope, its edges softened by time and repeated handling. He placed it carefully on the table between them, next to the broken crucifix. "This arrived a few years ago," he explained. "I didn't open it because I was told not to." The host's eyes widened slightly. "Told by who?" Keanu stared at the envelope, a complex mixture of emotions crossing his face. "It came after a meeting in Rome. Someone handed it to me without explanation or context. Just this." He slid the envelope toward the host. There was no name on it, only a faded symbol, a cross inside a circle. "I thought it was a mistake, or maybe a warning," Keanu continued, "but there was a note inside. One line." He lifted his gaze to the audience, his voice quiet but clear. It said, "Do not read until the dove has landed." The host raised his eyebrows. "The dove?" Keanu nodded. "It didn't make sense then, but I kept it for years, almost forgot about it. And then, Pope Francis." The envelope commanded attention under the studio lights. No one moved to take a commercial break. No production assistant signaled to change direction. The typical rhythm of television had been suspended by something more compelling, the palpable sense that truth was unfolding in real time. "There's something else," Keanu said, his voice dropping even lower. The host leaned toward him, no longer performing but genuinely engaged. "After Prevost's election, I started having a dream, the same one, night after night." Keanu described it without embellishment, his straightforward delivery making it all the more unsettling. "I'm standing in St. Peter's Square. It's completely empty. The sky is pale like dawn but somehow lifeless. I look up at the balcony." The host unconsciously leaned forward. "And he's there?" "Yes. The new Pope, Prevost, dressed in white, smiling." Keanu paused. "But he doesn't cast a shadow." A subtle shift rippled through the audience, that instinctive human response to something that violates natural law. "The sun is behind him," Keanu continued, "but the light passes straight through. There's no outline, no darkness behind him, just more light." The host attempted to normalize the account. "Dreams can be strange, symbolic. Maybe your mind is just processing something." Keanu looked at him directly. "It doesn't feel like a dream. It feels like a memory that hasn't happened yet." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, his voice taking on a different quality. "And it's always exactly the same." He raises one hand. The bells in the square should ring, but they don't. There's absolutely no sound. Not from birds, not from people, because there are no people. Just him and me and the silence. The host's voice had lost its practiced resonance. "That's haunting." "I've had dreams about death before, about grief," Keanu admitted, "but I've never woken up crying until this one." The audience released a collective breath, like they'd been holding it without realizing. "I didn't want to talk about it," Keanu confessed. "Not even to close friends. Because the more I thought about it, the more I wondered if I was seeing something no one else could." The host tried to offer rational perspective. "But it's just a dream, right?" Keanu turned to him slowly, his eyes searching. "Then why does it feel like a warning?" Before the host could respond, he added, "Dreams are symbols, shadows of the unconscious. But what does it mean when the dream has no shadow?" The question remained unanswered. A studio light flickered briefly overhead, as if in response. After several seconds of profound silence, the host found his voice again. "Keanu, are you saying you've received more than just that one letter?" Keanu nodded once, then reached inside his jacket again. He withdrew a small bundle of envelopes, some torn at the edges, others marked with what looked like ash or dust. None had return addresses or postage stamps. He spread them carefully on the table like artifacts from a forgotten archive. The host stared at them, his expression shifting from curiosity to genuine concern. "Where did these come from?" "Different places," Keanu explained. "Hotel rooms, My trailer on set. Once inside a book I hadn't touched in years. He opened the top envelope and removed a small piece of textured paper. It contained a typed message with no signature. When the successor smiles, faith watches in silence. He set that one aside and opened another. The man from Lemuria, the chosen one without voice. More followed in quick succession. Do not speak the name. Let him reveal himself. If he does not blink, the world must. He wears no shadow because the light fears him. The host shook his head in disbelief. Are you saying someone has been sending you these since Prevost became Pope? The first one came 2 days after the announcement. Keanu held up a thin blue airmail envelope. None of them use his name, never Robert Prevost. Just symbols, descriptions, fragments. And you think that's deliberate? Keanu raised his eyebrows slightly. Have you ever tried to write something honest but couldn't use the name of the person you were writing about? It's not censorship. It's fear. The audience remained transfixed. Even the overhead lights seemed to have dimmed, as if the room itself were drawing closer to hear his words. The host picked up one of the letters and read aloud. If he does not blink, the world must. What does that even mean? Keanu's expression darkened. I think it means we're being watched, all of us, but not in the way we're used to. He gestured toward the envelopes. These aren't threats, they're signals. Quiet ones, like someone trying to tell me, don't name it, don't challenge it, just observe. Let him show himself. Do you think someone's trying to stop you from saying something? For the first time in the interview, Keanu broke eye contact completely. He looked downward, not at the crucifix or the letters, but into some unseen space, something beyond the physical studio. The atmosphere had transformed entirely. This was no longer entertainment, it was testimony. Even the host, trained to navigate emotional revelations with professional distance, appeared genuinely affected by the growing unease in the room. Keanu picked up the original envelope again, the one bearing the seal he had finally broken after Francis's death. There's a second page in the letter Francis sent me. He unfolded it carefully, treating the paper as if it might disintegrate at any moment. Rather than handing it to the host, he read it himself, his voice taking on an almost reverent quality. He may dress in light, but carry the hollow. His gaze will be full, but never present. His words will echo comfort, but will not reach the soul. Keanu looked up briefly. Francis didn't normally write like this. This wasn't doctrinal language. This was something else entirely. He continued reading. There will be suffering beneath his silence. If he does not see it, he is not the shepherd. He is only the image of one. The host appeared stunned, his lips parting slightly as if to speak, then closing again. He was warning me, Keanu said, warning us that a time would come when the role would be filled but the spirit would be absent, that someone could wear the robes, stand on the balcony, smile, speak peace, but not carry the weight. The host shook his head slowly. This is massive. I mean, Francis wasn't exactly known for paranoia. No, he wasn't, Keanu agreed, which is what makes this so difficult to ignore. He picked up the page again and read the final lines. If I die before him, he must be watched, not for what he does, but for what he does not do. The sentence hung in the air like smoke after a fire. Watched for what? The host finally asked. Keanu answered without hesitation. For what he doesn't say. Complete stillness descended upon the studio. Not a cough, not a shuffle. Even the electrical hum of equipment seemed to recede into the background. Keanu carefully folded the letter, returned it to its envelope, and set it aside. I think Francis knew he wouldn't be able to stop it, he said quietly, but he hoped someone would see it, say it, even if it was too late. Why you? The host asked, barely above a whisper. Why send it to you of all people? Keanu looked down. I've asked myself that every day. I'm not a theologian or a bishop. I'm an actor. A bitter smile played briefly across his lips. But maybe that's why. Maybe he thought I'd recognize it as narrative, as something real beneath the symbols. He gestured toward the broken crucifix. Or maybe I was just the only one he thought would listen. Do you believe it? The host asked directly. Keanu met his gaze without hesitation. I do. Not because I want to, but because every day since Prevost appeared on that balcony I've felt it. He tapped his chest once. Right here. Something that isn't missing, but something that's pretending not to be. The silence that followed seemed to contain its own presence, as if truth itself had materialized in the studio. The overhead lights dimmed another fraction, perhaps accidentally, perhaps not. The space no longer felt like a television set, but like a confession booth where walls had ears. There was an interview, Keanu said suddenly, one that never aired. The host looked up sharply. With Francis? Keanu nodded once. It was recorded privately, not for broadcast, not even for Vatican archives, officially. He leaned forward slightly. I was shown a segment of it off the record. A friend of a friend. Someone who worked inside. The host's eyes widened. What did it show? It wasn't long. The clip I saw was maybe 40 seconds, but it was enough. Keanu paused. Francis was seated in a small room. No robes, no ring, just a white shirt. He looked tired, old, but absolutely clear. His words were slow, measured. Keanu addressed the audience directly. He said, Don't listen to my voice. Watch the silence. One day it will speak louder than I ever could. The host frowned. That's cryptic. That's why I didn't understand it at first, Keanu acknowledged. It felt like poetry, like someone who knew his time was limited. He shifted in his seat. But then the camera panned slightly. Francis turns almost reflexively, like he's looking past the interviewer, and there he is. Prevost? The host whispered. Keanu nodded, standing at the edge of the frame. Not announced, not introduced. Just there. The audience remained completely silent. He's standing completely still, watching, not blinking, just watching. Was he listening? The host asked. Keanu shook his head. It didn't feel like that. It felt like he wasn't listening at all. He was watching the lens. Not the interviewer. Not Francis. The lens. He withdrew a folded piece of paper from his coat. Heavier stock, matte finish, the kind used for high-quality printing. They deleted the video. Every copy from every device. I know because I asked around, pulled every string I had. He unfolded the paper and laid it flat on the table. It was a still frame, printed from a paused moment in the video. The host leaned forward to examine it. The audience couldn't see it clearly, but the host's reaction was unmistakable. His jaw tightened visibly. Keanu pointed to a figure barely visible at the right edge of the image. That's him. That's Prevost. The host leaned closer, then recoiled slightly. He's looking directly at the camera. Not at the person behind it, Keanu emphasized. Not at Francis, not at the floor, not at anything else in the room. He's looking at the lens itself. He tapped the photo gently. When I saw this, it felt like he wasn't actually in the room. It felt like he was watching through the screen, like he already knew someone else would be viewing this footage later. The host sat back, visibly disturbed. This is genuinely terrifying. They deleted everything, Keanu said, wiped every source, but not before I saw it. Why would they erase it? Keanu met his gaze. Because it didn't match the narrative. After a heavy pause, he added, Francis wasn't giving a farewell. He was giving a warning. The printed image remained between them, the only visual evidence of a moment deliberately erased from record. Behind it loomed an unsettling truth. Not everything sacred remains holy, and not everything holy survives deliberate editing. The studio had transformed into something else entirely. Not quite a chapel, not quite a courtroom, but a space where something ancient waited to be acknowledged. Keanu sat motionless, his hand resting lightly on the photograph of the figure watching from the edge of a forgotten frame. The host hadn't spoken for over a minute. The audience remained perfectly still. "There's one more thing," Keanu said finally. He reached beneath his chair and produced a small yellowish slip of paper, folded in quarters. "This was left in my dressing room before tonight's show." The host straightened. "What?" "No envelope," Keanu confirmed. "Just this, sitting on the table where I keep my script notes." He unfolded it carefully and read aloud. "If you show it, there is no going back." He set the note down. "That's it. No name, no explicit threat, just our inevitability." The host made no effort to interrupt as Keanu reached once more into his jacket pocket and withdrew a second page from Francis's letter. "This is the part I wasn't sure I'd ever read aloud," he said, looking directly into the camera. "It's not a warning or an expression of fear. It's a choice." He unfolded the paper, cleared his throat, and began, "If the voice of faith becomes only an echo, the truth will die in silence." After a brief pause, he continued, "There are those who will wear the robes but not the burden, those who will speak the words but not know their weight. You will know them by the spaces between their answers." Keanu lowered the page. Francis believed that silence could be holy, but also dangerous, that it could be used either to comfort or to hide. He looked at the host. He believed someone was coming who would lead through stillness, not out of peace, but absence. He then reached for one final object, a color photograph, slightly faded but still glossy. He held it up without immediately revealing it to the cameras. This was taken almost 10 years ago. What happens next has become one of the most discussed moments in television history. As Keanu revealed the final photograph and completed his extraordinary testimony, millions of viewers witnessed a revelation that would spark international debate about faith, leadership, and the nature of truth itself. Whether you believe his account or dismiss it as elaborate fiction, one thing remains undeniable. The interview that was meant to be casual and forgettable instead became unforgettable, touching something profound in our collective search for authenticity in an increasingly opaque world. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe for more content that explores the boundaries between the seen and unseen. Share in the comments. Have you ever received a warning that seemed mysterious at first, but proved important later? Remember, sometimes the most significant messages come to us in unexpected ways, through unexpected messengers, even from a beloved actor on what should have been just another late-night talk show.